All right, we are ready to rock and roll. I don't know why it is showing this one. I'm gonna remove it. Hold on, please. Yeah. When you're live, you're live. It's always crazy. For real now, for real. Today, as I always say, we have an amazing topic. So everyone thinks that standing out is about more content, being seen more, which yes, I agree. You need to be seen more, but it's not about just that, or it's not about that. It's about becoming the obvious choice, the person people feel pulled toward before you ever even get on a call. And I used to have a program, it was called Dominate, Don't Compete. It didn't really resonate with a lot of you because it's kind of like, you know, in your face, but dominate, don't compete. And I think that that sort of summarizes the whole of what I'm trying to say. And what that means is you want people. So if you look at, I would say, you look out, you've got this whole world of people doing the exact same thing as you. And the first question everybody asks me is, how do I compete? There are so many people doing it. And you know, one thing I want to say is you feel like there's so many people doing it because you're in that world, like that reticular activation, whatever thing. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm probably butchering the word. But if you know what I'm talking about, you probably figured it out. There's this thing that if we decide that we want a certain type of car, and then we go out on the road, all of a sudden we're seeing that car everywhere. It's because we're focusing on that car, right? So I'm equating this to that because we want people to think of us as the one and the only and the obvious choice. And how do we do that? We show up a lot, right? We help them see who we are, what we're all about, how we can help them. But how do we stand out in that big crowd? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today is you need to stand out with your content, but your content needs to stand out in what you're saying and how you're saying it. And most importantly, they need to feel that connection to you and pulled to you, not just your fix, not just how you can fix it, but the whole nine, right? All of it. They already have a problem and they're looking for somebody to solve it. There are plenty of people that can solve it. Why you? And that's really what you want to be. You want them to be able to say, you want to be able to help them say that, and you want them to be able to say it. So just so you know, at the end, I'm going to give you the most overlooked shift that instantly boosts your perceived value. So make sure you stay until that point. Somebody told me the other day that I never introduced myself, so I'm going to do it very quickly. I'm Erica Leary. I'm from Hotlanta, Atlanta, Georgia. I help coaches and small businesses build a real business. So if you're a coach, you know what I mean. If you're a brick and mortar, you're like, what? I already have one. But a real business is a profitable business. It's a business that you can rely on month after month after month, year after year after year, and is steadily moving. Maybe it's not this, but it's definitely not this, unless, sometimes seasonal, but you hear me. Something you can rely on, something you can count on. So it's consistent, it's profitable, and it's built on a personal brand that stands out even in an AI powered world. Why is that important? So look at my favorite example, love him or hate him, Elon Musk, Tesla. Now the whole world knows who Tesla is, right? But everybody would buy Tesla based on Elon Musk before it even came out. It's based on his personal brand. Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines. right? Richard Branson, if you look at their accounts, Richard Branson versus Virgin Airlines or Elon Musk versus Tesla, even their accounts, they're built on a personal brand. They built that trust, and now people will move to where they're moving. People believe in them and they will buy whatever they have for them. So that's what I want for you, whether you are a brick and mortar business or a coach or a consultant. If you're a coach and consultant, I mean, absolutely 100%. But even if you're like, but I want to build an empire, it still starts with you. Same with your local business. It still starts with you. Think about a corporation. Who they choose as a CEO can make or break stocks, right? People have trust in the person, the stocks go up. People dislike the person, the stocks go down. So the person is really, really big. And I focus on that a lot, especially now in the AI world. You need to think about it. So before we jump in, I did make something special for you, as I always like to try to do, called the Positioning Power Sheet. So it's 5 simple questions that are going to help you tighten your positioning so that you instantly become the obvious choice. All right, just drop positioning if you want that one. All right, let's talk about what we're covering today. Why you blend in without realizing it. So when you look out at that sea of sameness, you're one of them, right? You do not want to be one in a sea of sameness. You want to pop out of that. So why you blend in without realizing it. The 3 shifts that immediately make you stand out. Got to bake obvious choice energy into your content. I'm going to repeat that one, write it down. How to bake obvious choice energy into your content. This is huge. And we don't really do this a lot. So the next one is the number one overlook factor that separates experts from everyone else. That's the sameness. All right. So we want to talk about first why most coaches blend in without realizing it. So let's talk about the traps. Let's talk about the blending in traps that we all fall into and we need to be aware of. We need to be, definitely looking out for so that we don't fall into that. So generic messaging. This is a big one, and I hear this over and over and over again. We hear somebody else say it, and we're like, oh my God, that sounds so good. I'm going to use it. One, if that someone else already has built a brand, keep in mind their messaging may not be why they have the people because they already built that. So even when they change that messaging, even if that messaging gets more generic, they already built that loyalty of audience that's going with them. It doesn't work the same with you, right? We are not Nike. We just can't move like Nike. You're not Gary Vee. You can't just overnight become Gary Vee. Not saying you can't. You absolutely can. But it's not going to happen overnight. And you need to be uber focused on your messaging. It's so important. So if you say something like, I help you get clarity. All right, first of all, everybody says that. Second of all, clarity on what, why, what am I going to do with that clarity? What's that clarity going to bring me, get me, do for me, right? Always think of that. So if you have some sort of messaging that you know that you use a lot, think about it and try to ask yourself some questions like, does this get as deep as it can? Because if not, you're going to want to change that. All right. I help you break through your limiting beliefs. Another one. How many times have you heard that? Everybody says it, right? So generic messaging. Just don't. You want to get uber specific. All right, another one that everybody does is trying to appeal to everyone. We all get stuck in this trap. We all do. I know that I can help everybody. You know that you can help everybody. The problem is when we do content, especially, I'm talking about content. When we do content, in order to resonate with somebody, we have to, the old way was kind of calling them out, like coaches, whatever. But the better way is to create scenarios that they see themselves in. So let me give you an example. This is an easy one. I'm listing 3 different ways that we get trapped in. If one of these calls out to you, now I've clicked it, right? I don't have to say coaches. I can just say, if you use generic messaging, and one of the things you say is, I help you get clarity. If you say that, automatic click, right? An example I use all the time is if I say, you're running around in the morning with 3 toddlers at your ankles trying to get, lunch ready for your husband and for the 3 kids that are in school. Okay, I'm making this up on the fly. If you say something like that, a mother who's running around like a mad person and feeling guilty because she sent her husband to work with her kids' lunch, that type of thing. That scenario will help people resonate or relate. So when you do that, that's when you really get to people. If you are appealing to everybody, that mother will never hear you. Do you see what I'm saying? You have to really get in there. What's going through her head? That guilty feeling. That's what you want to dial in on. And it's, a real thing. She's got 3 toddlers running around. How's she going to do it all? So she needs you to hear her and feel her. You see what I'm saying? You're a chiropractor and you work with very busy male executives, say, right? Very busy male young executives. So you're really trying to show up at work and get the big bosses to see you, and you're working, 8-10 hours a day. I hear you. You need to come in and get that chiropractic fix or whatever it's called. Click, no, whatever it's called. I have the perfect thing for you. You come in and you get out in 15 minutes flat. You don't have to fill out any forms. You can do it all online before you ever get here. You're in and out in 15 minutes flat, boom, bang, boom. Now that resonates with that young person that's running around trying to get, move up in the world, but really needs to go to the chiropractor, as opposed to somebody who wants somebody to take their time on them. That's going to horrify them. You hear me, right? Anyway, so you cannot try to appeal to everybody. It just doesn't work. Your message will be diluted, making you forgettable, blending you in with everybody, and ultimately just not chosen. And third one is no anchored point of view. If your audience can't explain what makes you different, they'll never choose you, right? So I always talk about conversations. Always, always, always. I believe in having better conversations. I think this is the way to this, right? So I think conversations is something that I anchor to. There are some people who are like, I don't want to have any conversations. Well, they're not my people, right? Can I get somebody there later on? Absolutely. But if my messaging going out there is conversation, 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 if they hear that, they're like, nope, I'm out. That's okay with me. That's totally okay with me. Why? Just to give you a little story. So one of my very first jobs, corporate jobs, was the Home Depot. And this was back in the day. Oh my God, I can't even think of his name. Anyway, the CEO at the time. I can't think of his name. Oh my gosh, it's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, loved him. He was he was the heart and soul of Home Depot. And one of the things that he always like hammered in was the client is always right. Now, whether you believe that or not, I don't know. But back in the day, at least I haven't been to Home Depot in 20 years, but back in the day, I live in another country and don't own a house in the States. So no reason for me to go there. But back in the day when I worked there, they were very big on having people who could have a conversation with the clients. They were very big on understanding the clients and letting them be seen and heard. And I just have carried that with me my entire rest of my life. I think that understanding your client and letting them feel seen and heard is the most important thing ever. And I think that it starts with great conversations. So, hence. Anyway, that's my anchor point of view. I believe in conversations. I believe in content, right? I believe in AI helping you do your content, but I believe in being on camera. Some people think that you shouldn't have to be. I think you should. Personal branding, I think that that is huge. All right. So let's talk about some real life examples. Brene Brown. Again, love or hate her, it doesn't really matter. But what is she known for? Vulnerability. Who doesn't look at or think about Brene Brown and think vulnerability? She's the one that came out with like so everybody takes what Brene Brown says and blobbers on their sleeve, but she has this phrase that actually tells you not to do that, and I can't think of what it is. But she did bring vulnerability out to the world, and some people just kind of took it and went way too far deep with that one. But anyway, vulnerability and research. She does a lot of research about her stuff. So research may be like a secondary thing you think of when you think of Brene Brown. Mel Robbins. What do you think of Mel Robbins? I won't say mine, but no fluff, right? To the point, habit-based actions, 2-minute rule, high five or high 10 or whatever it's called. She has different things that are habit-based, stacking she talks about. What about Marie Forleo? Marie Forleo. She does like personality, right? All about personality. Actionable business training. That's what you're going to think about when you think of her. She's very, personality. Somebody I follow that you probably won't know. She talks about the 90s. She's got like this 90s vibe all day long, every day. So that could be what you do, right? But you want to do things that make you memorable and that make people remember you. So each one has like a signature lens, right? You look at me, you're going to think content, you're going to think conversations, clients, right? Getting more clients. You might think of any of those things. It makes that person the obvious choice. So again, if you're after faceless videos and automating everything so you never have to speak to somebody. I'm not your obvious choice, right? But if you know that in your heart of hearts, you love people, you want to talk to people, you know that when you talk to people, you can make some magic happen, then maybe I'm your choice. If you realize the power of Elon Musk or Richard Branson, then maybe I'm your choice. That makes that the obvious choice because that is what I dig into. All right. So let's talk about the 3 shifts that make you the obvious choice. Number 1, I don't know, something bit me on my back. Sharpen your point of view. So make people say, nobody talks about it like she does, right? Nobody says it like that. I was speaking to somebody the other day who does credit repair. And I was telling her, like, you have all of these, I I want to say like tricks, like all of these ways to do things that I have never heard anybody talk about online. Lean into that. Tell the world, right? Tell the world. And the other thing is case studies. Don't put a testimonial up. Tell the world like what happened to that person. You know, I have a framework that I call STAR, which is so funny because, you know, one of my programs is STAR. Clients on Repeat uses STAR formula. Anyway, I obviously like the word star. I want you to shine like a star. Enough Erica cheese. Anyway, I have this formula of how you should talk about your case studies. Or the idea though is to show somebody like where they were at and what you did to get them to where they're at now. So talk about it like that. All right, so let's think about this. Like from your point of view, how can you show up from your point of view? So what frustrates you in your industry? What frustrates you? So I'm going to answer it for me just so that you can kind of get it. But like what frustrates me is people trying to go after the viral. I always talk about like if you create a cat video and you go viral, is it really helping your business? More than likely, it's hurting your business rather than helping it. If I went viral on something that's talking about how, you know, you need to have more conversations in your business, then maybe that would be great. But I'm not out there trying for that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm out for the connection. And I believe in that. So it's frustrating to me when people talk about viral and that's what people focus on. It's frustrating to me when somebody who's new to business is sold a website for a couple of $1,000 and the idea that that website will solve all their problems. And nobody tells them, well, you kind of need traffic to get to that website. You're probably going to need, you know, months and months and months of SEO, or you're going to need outreach, or nobody tells them that. They just sell them the website for a couple $1,000 and leave them sitting there wondering, why is my business not working? I hate that. Ugh, that drives me crazy. Okay. What do you believe that is counterculture? So think about that for you. What do you believe that is counterculture? It goes against, right? What are people doing wrong that costs them time and money? Like they're going viral. The websites, right? What are people doing wrong that costs them time and money? I do believe in websites. Just hearing this right now, all that. Of course you need a website. Yes, I do believe in websites. I don't believe it is the absolute first thing you need to do in your business. When you first start a business, you need clients, right? And a website is not the fastest path to clients. So do I believe in websites? Yes. I think a professional website does help. Later. All right. Another thing. So messaging is all about some things that you believe that you say over and over again, right? So strategy over tactics is a big one that I talk about. A lot of people love to teach just the tactics. The tactics would be like going on TikTok and, you know, finding the trending audio and making sure you know, do something with it. That's a tactic. The strategy is, right, putting yourself out there and making sure that people hear your messaging. So a lot of times I talk about 1440, which is, you know, the amount of minutes in a day. 1440, make it count. That's a thing I have. And that positions you, right? So have phrases or things from your world that will position you. Expert, as an expert in something, about something. All right. If that confused you, just drop it and I'll get into it later with you. All right, let's talk about the second shift. Own one specific promise. So this goes back to that we can help everybody, right? Oh, I can help everybody and I can do everything. Again, I have been doing this since 2007. I feel like saying that all the time. Not that I can, but if I couldn't figure it out myself, I've got somebody that like I could bring in to do it. And I always want to do this one. So I get caught up in this too. But being the obvious choice isn't about everything. It's about being the best for one thing. And this is why you need a signature offer. Once I bring people into my world, helping them get that initial boost based on their messaging, which every business needs, right? Personal brand, which I think every business needs. Once I help them get that initial boost, then I can show them, hey, now that you've got this, let's systematize it. And I can bring in back-end systems. Hey, once you do this, I can bring in, how you are going to have an exit plan, step back from things. I have a lot of other things in the background. But if I talk about all of those, people are going to get confused. I need to have one way that people find me and see me. And then those people who have already found me and seen me and are in my world, then I can start bringing the other stuff in the background. But front facing, you need to be dialed in. That is the only way to make yourself the obvious choice. And it does not mean that you can't offer other things, but you need to offer them in the background, All right. So, with my clients on repeat, I used to call that Star Conversations, and I changed it to clients on repeat using Star Conversations because the formula or the framework that I use is based on Star Conversations, but it's not as clear about the outcome, clients on repeat. So I changed the name of it, but it uses Star Conversations. You will hear me talk about Star Conversations a lot because that's the formula or the methodology that we use. And what is that all about? Turning conversations into clients. Right? Right? It all kind of goes together. And you need to have that too. It all needs to flow together. They need to understand what you're talking about. If you have 86 different things, nobody's going to know what you're talking about. I'm always talking about conversations, right? And clients, turning conversations into clients. All right. What about if I say James Clear? What do you think? Dun, dun, dun. Habits, right? James Clear, habits. If I say Amy Porterfield, what do you think? Drop it below. Digital courses. Amy Porterfield, digital courses. And she started off with, I feel like she pivoted, but I can't think of it right now. What about Donald Miller? Donald Miller. This one may not be as clear to you. I wish I could think of the name of his book right now, but Donald Miller is messaging. I mean, he's an expert at messaging. Oh, Donald Miller, Story Brand. So you might think stories. Ooh, yeah, that might even be a better one than messaging because it leads to the right type of stories to tell for your messaging. All right. Anyway, what one result are you the go-to person for? There's mine, right? What's yours? What one result are you the go-to person for? Drop it down below. I want to see it. All right. Shift 3. Show proof of thinking, not just results. And I sort of tapped on this earlier. And that is testimonials. Number one, nobody even believes them anymore. So they're kind of pointless. But if you could tell people what you did to get somebody from here to here, and you can show the progress or the steps, this is what people want to know. So a lot of times I will tell you, people are A, you need to show them how you can get them to B. And this is all about that, right? So ways to do this, break down industry myths. like the going viral thing. Break down things like that. Talk about it. Why do you believe differently? Why do people think that they can just build a website and get clients? Because people talk about it and people say that. And so sorry, not even remotely close. If you've been burned with that one, drop it down below because that breaks my heart. Every time somebody comes to me with that as their lead in. Can your website bring in your clients? Absolutely. Absolutely it can. But it is not an overnight process and it's not a build it and they will come thing either. There's a lot you need to do. All right. So you can show it by sharing frameworks. That's my star conversation. So, and I do frameworks a lot. So I might even be, you might think of frameworks when you think of me, but I love frameworks. And the reason I love frameworks is because I heard somebody, I think I read this on social one time, but when we were 14 or 15, if somebody told us what to do, we did the exact opposite, or we said, don't tell me what to do. Right? We did not want to be told what to do. Now that we're in our later years, we want step by step. We want to be told, just tell me exactly what to do. And I am smart enough to do it. Just tell me what it is. Right? So we want to share those frameworks with people. We want to say, hey, I've got that step-by-step process that's going to get you from no conversations to conversations that convert into clients. We want people to understand that. So show your framework, right? I have one that I use for time management called ACT. I have one that I use for your daily activities called Dawn, DAWN, right? The Dawn a day. Because I want people to follow a certain formula framework that I know works and they want to follow it. Drop a yes, I want to follow it, right? Drop a yes or follow or something like that. If you're like, oh my God, yeah. I don't want all this fluff around. Just tell me what to do. I do like to add a little bit why you're doing it. I'm a curious person, so sometimes people get annoyed by that, but I'm curious. I ask why about everything. I ask a lot of questions, just in my nature. All right, you could use mini case stories. People ask me this all the time. What if you don't have a bunch of case stories? Well, you can use hypothetical case stories. Look at a commercial on TV. You think that's a real couple they're showing? No, it's not. It's based on what it could look like, right? That's what a commercial is about. What your life could be like, what your body could look like if you follow these steps, right? So you can use case stories in your business that are what it would look like. Once you understand how to do that, even if you have clients, like a lot of times it's hard to put that together after the fact. But now that you understand it, now that you know what you're going to look for, when you get clients in the future or more clients, you're going to start writing it down as you do. You're going to document it that way so that you can end up talking about it later. Mini case studies. They're awesome. People love that. They want to see, oh my God, this person went from this to this, and all they did was this, and in this amount of time. People love to see that. So explain why something works, not just how. Right? Curious people want to know. And I know, like, maybe I asked too many questions. It's a possibility, but I want to know why. And I know that most of you that follow me want to know why too. So talk about it. Talk about why. Think of your audience. Do they ever ask why and want to know, like, why does nobody tell me? I hate that. All right. If you do just those things, right, it's going to elevate you up to here. 95% of coaches who just post tips, right? So you're going to go from that sea of sameness up to here. That is huge. That is huge. That was the one that I wanted to tell you about. Let me see what I said at the beginning. Yeah, that was your shift. And that is a overlooked shift. And the reason is because think about this. We like stories, right? But we like to see how the story goes. We want to see the beginning, the middle, and the end. We love that. So if you can show the results, like beginning, middle, end, people now start following it. They resonate with it. If you add in some obstacles, what happened in between? Why did it take 3 months longer? Right? I mean, that happens. That happens. Somebody, has a car accident, a dog dies, life happens. Throw those into your stories. An obstacle that you went over and still made it through. All right. Where am I? All right, so if you do just that, again, it'll elevate you. So sea of sameness pops you up. Do those shifts. I promise you that will be big. All right, I will just recap really quickly. Sharpen your point of view. Own one specific promise, not all of them. It doesn't mean you can't do them. It means you need to own one so that people can get to know you. And show proof of thinking, not just results. So before and after is great, but how did you get there, right? How did you get them there? All right. Okay, earlier, one of the things I said we were going to talk about is bring in that obvious choice energy into your content. Super important. So let's talk about some content shifts to make immediately. Bigger declarations. You don't need a website. You need conversations. Ooh, you don't need a funnel. You need more conversations, right? Now, technically, right? I love funnels. I love websites. I think you should have all of that, but it's not what you need to get more clients right now, most of you. So that is like a bigger declaration that I can really stand behind, right? Like stop working on this, go here, 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 and you will make it happen. So bigger declarations. The second one is more clear stances. People follow clarity, not neutrality. I want you to think about this one long and hard before you do it, because this one is the one where people might go nuclear. People might go political and not mean to. So, or it might not be where they should go in their company. And there are some great examples recently of companies that were trying to be cool and get behind something and then had to backtrack afterwards. So you want to be clear on something, not neutral, but you also want to know what that something is, and is that important to your brand or your clients or your mission or whatever, right? So a great example is Patagonia. They are all about the environment. Everything is about the environment. They're super clear about that. Their audience follows them for that. Their clothing follows that. They don't have inexpensive clothing. It's expensive. Why? Because it's all about making sure the environment and blah, blah, blah all goes with it. Their audience buys from them because of that, because of their stance on that. So if they decided to also have a line that was more fast fashion so that everybody could afford them because their stuff is expensive, what would that do to their brand? Dilute it, break the trust, right? You don't want to do that. So I don't want to go into stories here, but just think of your messaging and think of what you want to lean into and have a clear stance on and not be neutral on. So I will tell you every day of the week, you do not need to get a website first, right? You don't. You just don't. You will still be professional. I'm not neutral about that. I'm one-sided about that, right? You do need to be on camera. You do need to show your face, right? I'm very clear. You should be too. And think about whether you want to be political, religious, or any of that before you ever get out there and say it. Your personal profile should be business, period. If you are a business, your personal profile is your business because everything about you is out for the world to see. So if you don't want the world seeing it, don't put it out there. All right. More examples and store. If you're like, oh, but that's my personal profile. It doesn't matter. It's public. It's on the public forum. Just saying, you can hear me on that soapbox, right? That would be one I would stand on, right? I'm a very clear stance on that. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. Your stuff is, if it's public, it's public, which means it's part of your business. All right, more examples and stories. Humans remember stories 22 times more than data. Data. Anyway. So, shout out to Made to Stick, Chip and Dan Heath. Those are the ones where that study came from. So 22 times more than data. That's a lot, right? That's why we love stories. And we know we do. And we feel like it's hard to tell stories, but you just like interject them into the things that you're doing. I've told, I don't know how many, and they were not in my outline. I just add them in naturally. If somebody tells me I have to add a story, I can't think of one. So I have to add mine in naturally as I go. All right. So to become the obvious choice, your conversations must reinforce your positioning. Ooh, right? So in my clients on repeat, I use STAR conversations. That's the methodology that I use. And I teach you exactly how to do that, how to showcase your value naturally to prospects. I mean, so that prospects feel comfortable, confident choosing you before you ever have to sell. And that makes your conversations a lot more comfortable too. Just a quick plug. Conversations That Convert 5-day experience. If you want to be in the next one, just drop convert below here and I will send you a link to the next one. If you know you're interested in clients on repeat, just drop clients on repeat. All right. The overlooked factor almost no one talks about. Dun, 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 dun. So this is the other one that we were talking about above. Your signature frequency. Let me explain it. So I know I should close that window. I'm sorry. It's sunny and beautiful and cloudy all at the same time. All right, becoming the obvious choice is not about being the loudest. It's about being the clearest and most consistent in your identity. I want you to write the word down, identity, because that is really, really, really what all of it is about. And it goes back to your personal branding. It goes back to your business. It goes back to your messaging, to naming, to everything. You need it to be the clearest and the most consistent. So people choose you because of your energy. That does not mean you have to have Erica's energy. You don't have to speak fast and loud and laugh loud enough to, wake up babies. That does not have to be your energy. Energy doesn't mean you have to be hyper and loud and crazy. That's my energy, right? Your energy can be like Zen energy. One of my mentors right now, she is I always say I'm gonna Zen. Her name's Regina. I'm gonna Zen my Regina. Why? Because I want to bring that calmness in to certain things that I'm doing. I need to Zen my Regina and get. So that's her energy, and it's amazing energy. It's amazing to be around her, right? So what is your energy? What is it that your energy that people are drawn to you about? That was a convoluted sentence. I hope you got it. What is it about your energy that people are drawn to? Ooh, that was way better. All right. People choose you because of your lived experience, your unique lens, right? The way you see things, the way you say things, your consistency in showing up, right? Almost one of the most consistent things I do is this, right? Every Thursday. And do I ever fail? Yep. But I try not to. All right. Your unwavering point of view. Nobody likes a wishy-washy person. Nobody likes that. Remember, CEOs, high performance people, they make fast decisions and move quickly, take action. Same thing with your point of view. You have to stick to your point of view. If you are like all of a sudden like, oh my God, I really actually think this. I'm not saying you can't do that. There's experiences that happen along the way, maybe studies, maybe, a lot of things that happen along the way to change your point of view. Acknowledge it and lean into it and tell why you changed it. It doesn't mean you can't change it, right? But you need to be steadfast in your point of view, unwavering. And your ability to articulate, say it clearly, articulate what others feel but can't say. That's the part about like using scenarios and situations, being in their head. What are they feeling? The mom that feels guilty. She didn't even think about feeling guilty about giving her husband the wrong lunch. That didn't even cross her mind, but that's what it is, right? That's what's making her feel, unworthy or less than or not enough or whatever it is. That. And so when you say it, she's like, oh my God, yes. So if you can articulate what others feel but can't say, you've got them, right? I don't want to say it like that, but you need to be able to do that. So work on that. Because that's when somebody feels like, oh my God, you got me. That's, what I was trying to say. All right. And this is why, dun, 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 AI cannot replace you. It can't replicate your lived identity. Yes, your AI can help you. Yes, you can feed it stories and everything about you, right? But you're always adding to that. You're always living. There are new things happening. And your energy is your energy. My energy is not, Regina Zen energy. It's not that. So it can't replicate that. That's what you need to know. This is your high impact. This is the piece of you, right? This is your identity, and this is why people are drawn to you. This is what breaks you out of that sea of sameness, your identity. And it includes all of that, all of those things that I just said, right? It's your knowledge, it's your experience, it's your stories, it's your life, whatever. All right. So, quick recap, and we're done. I don't have glasses on, but I think we're good on time. Have a clear point of view. That is instant differentiation, right? I am not trying to tell you that the only way to do things is to use TikTok, or the only way, I'm not about that, right? I'm about have some more conversations. You will get it done. One promise equals authority. People need to know you for something. They need to understand. They need to do that thing like Eric Leary, conversations. Eric Leary, clients. Eric Leary, conversations that get clients. They need to be able to do that with you. What is it? Thought leadership over content. So don't just crank out content. Somebody that I work with, one of the things that she did was quotes. I'm like, don't just put out quotes. Yes, people like it, but put your point of view in it. Say why you're doing it. That's your thought leadership. Why did you choose that quote? What do you want them to know about that quote? What do you want them to think about that quote? What questions do you ask yourself when you see that quote? Add stuff to it that's you, right? Use your own quotes. That's your thought leadership. Stories and examples, they make you memorable. People are going to remember. Somebody's going to remember that I worked at Home Depot. And I talk about Home Depot a lot. Still bleed orange, right? I do, because it made an impact on me. So I do bring it up a lot. It was my first real corporate job. Your identity and your frequency seal the deal. Your identity and your frequency seal the deal. And consistency makes you undeniable, right? Everywhere. People count on you. All right. If you want the positioning power sheet today, drop positioning down below this. Spend 10 minutes answering these 5 questions inside, and they're going to shift how you show up this week and how your audience sees you, more importantly. So if you want deeper support and becoming the obvious choice, turning every conversation into clients, come to the next 5-day experience, Conversations That Convert. Love to see you there. All right. Have an amazing rest of your day and weekend ahead. Ciao.